Tasmai Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Mandeham Sri Guru Sri Tapatakamadam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Cha Vishakanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostame Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamame Haripriya Vancha Kalpatarubhesya Kupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Papanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So today there is a special topic that we are going to discuss. So the topic is love. So how this love is defined? What is it actually? We'll have a small glimpse on this. So hope you can able to see my screen sharing.
Yes, Prabhuji, we can see.
So this is thank you. So this is the small topic today. What is this love is all about? How we can really understand and practically how we do implement in our daily life. So as you know, love is one of the words we use most, but we understand least. The problem is that there are many kinds of love. We have sister love, brother love, father love, mother love, all love. One of the distinctions we can make between different kinds of love has to do with the time duration. How long love lasts? Some love lasts a few days. Normally we see in the college days, the youth, they have so much exposure themselves. Some love lasts a lifetime also, and some love lasts forever. They think it is forever. Most lovers aspire for the latter, but in vain. They try to, love each other forever, but they fail to do so. Like that, we have many kinds of love, but by illusion, we forgot to see what is the real love. Now, let's move deep into this. Today, youth is getting spoiled. They are unable to understand themselves, and parents have invested lakhs and crores of rupees for their education, and the youth are getting misled, and they are not properly guided, they are not properly nurtured from the parent level itself. Because the parents themselves, they are misguided. Love between bodies is bound to be temporary. We think, it is forever and it is eternal, and we say so many things. But finally, it is only a temporary concept. Why is it a temporary? Anybody has got any guessing? Love between bodies is bound to be temporary, but my question is, why is it temporary?
ఈ శరీరం వదిలేసినాక ఆ రిలేషన్ ఉండదు కదా ప్రభుజీ.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Body itself is a temporary, Prabhu.
Because it is not Krishna conscious.
Because it is not Krishna conscious. All your answers are perfect. All your answers are correct.
We are not the body, we are the source.
Yes, Mataji. Because Here, the lovers' bodies are temporary only, Once they leave the body, what happens? Either the body is buried, the body is burnt, or body is thrown to the vultures. But ultimately, their love is not permanent. But they think it is permanent, but they also try to make it permanent. And so on, and thereby they are simply going for their sense gratification, and it is not at all spiritual, and nor in the material also it is not good. So what about the soul? Will the lovers not meet in the eternal spiritual world and there enjoy deathless love? How is that? So the answer is given there. Perhaps, but the question is, how do we get to the spiritual world? That requires a special kind of love, the love between the individual soul and the supreme soul, God. Actually, we are caught in a web of temporary, unsatisfying, loving relationship because we have forgotten how to love God. The material world, actually, there is no love. It is only lust. And unable to control our senses, we name it different in a different ways. And we have kind of friends, and we also call it is a kind of loving relationship, but after some time it is broken, and a lot of misunderstanding between friends, between brothers, between sisters, and between childhood friends. There are so many things. So the spiritual love between the individual soul and the supreme soul is the most important kind of love. And this is the only eternal, because we forgot the Lord and we came to this material world to enjoy ourselves, thereby all these problems are causing. But the love between the living entity, which is the soul, and the Supreme Lord, it is the only love that is truly eternal. Because the super soul is following the individual soul in a different bodies, and hoping that in one janma, this conditional soul will come to me, it will come back to me. And with the hope, the super soul, which is Paramatma, has been, continuing in so many bodies also, though we try to forget the Supreme Lord who is residing in the heart. And but Lord is the supreme well-wisher. He will never leave us until the living entity reaches to the Supreme Lord's abode. Actually, every other kind of love we experience is just a reflection of the original loving exchange between the individual soul and the Supreme Soul. The one which we are seeing here or experiencing, it is only a kind of reflection from the spiritual world. So the real love, this is special love, is called in Sanskrit bhakti. And the process for awakening that love is called bhakti yoga, the art of eternal love. And this is the highest in this material world and the spiritual world also. This bhakti yoga has got highest importance. Bhakti involves three things here: the lover, the beloved, and the loving relationship. In bhakti, all three are eternal. The person who is loving, called a lover, and also the beloved is the Supreme Lord, he is also eternal. And between them, the relationship is loving relationship. That is called bhakti. That is the only eternal. The lover, the individual soul, is eternal. The beloved, the supreme soul, is also eternal, and the loving relationship, bhakti, is also eternal. In the 16th century, an extremely advanced expert in bhakti yoga, named Srila Rupa Goswami, wrote a handbook on its theory and practice. If you can see in our material world, most of the people, they write so many books, but it is only a kind of theory, and they never practice it. Thereby, all these books, novels, comics, and other magazines, they are only big failure, and it does not touch the heart of a living entity. But the Bhakti Yoga, the Rupa Goswami, he wrote a book, and based on his theory and practice and the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he implemented it. So he called his book Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And this is unlimited, like, it's an ocean of mellows of bhakti is available in this book. The ocean of the nectar of divine love. For a long time, its secrets remained locked in the ancient Sanskrit language. How many people can able to understand Sanskrit? Hardly any people. That's why it has become blocked. And fortunately for us, a modern master of the knowledge and techniques of Bhakti Yoga is Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, translated the book into English and began training his students in its mysteries. Srila Prabhupada titled his translation The Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Now, not only Srila Prabhupada translated this book, but translated Bhagavad Gita from Sanskrit to English, and the whole Bhagavatam, 12 cantos from Sanskrit to English. Now the whole world is reading, and they are getting their lives transformed, because that is the essence of Bhakti Yoga. It is not just simply reading. If anybody is reading, that does not much work out, but he need to relate it to his daily activities, keeping Krishna as center. Love in its material manifestation is usually associated with places. A city like Paris in the springtime, or a beach where one walked with one's beloved. So where normally people, they would like to do it. Now Christmas holidays are coming. In the name of Christmas, people are misusing the festivity, and they are using for their own sense gratification. And this is the highest misuse of a human life. In the same way, spiritual love is also associated with places. How? The highest such places, if Vrindavana, an earthly manifestation of the eternal spiritual place, where God enjoys loving pastimes with his eternal associated in the spiritual sky. In Vrindavana, there are many temples, and one of them, the Radha Damodar temple, is forever associated with Rupa Goswami, because his physical form is interred there. A small memorial to him called a samadhi rises in one of the temple courtyards. Before he came to America in 1965, Srila Prabhupada lived in a quiet room in the Radha Damodar temple. He used to peep through the darshan of Radha Damodar to the window, and through his window he could see and draw inspiration from the samadhi of Rupa Goswami. 7 years later, Srila Prabhupada returned to the Radha Damodar temple. And in the courtyard near Rupa Goswami's samadhi, he gave for his disciples a series of lectures full of deep spiritual insight into bhakti, have been interwoven with excerpts from the Nectar of Devotion to from the substance of this book. We invite you to share in Rupa Goswami's teachings on Bhakti Yoga, the art of eternal love, as they have come down to us from his foremost modern follower in disciplic succession. If we can learn to love God through Bhakti Yoga, we can learn to love everything and everyone else in the proper way, in the way that will bring us the most happiness, and it is called the best happiness. That title is The Happiness of Eternal Love, by executing loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. So in this material world, we often tend to hear this three-letter word, I love you. Recently, I heard one lecture from a sannyasi. He gave a different outlook for this. Why do people use this? What actually secret behind this? They say, I love you, but it is not supposed to be used in this material world. Why? In the material world, we can use only like this. I lust you instead of love you, because the material world, there is no love. It is only a lust. However, if anybody is following Bhakti Yoga, if anybody has chanting 16 rounds and following 4 regulator principles and doing loving devotional service for the devotees and for the Lord, they can use this word and to the Supreme Lord himself and not to anybody else. Srila Prabhupada has translated that essence from Sanskrit. This is the book title, Bhakti, the Art of Eternal Love. And this is a very small book. I request each and everyone to have this book, either hard copy or soft copy, and read it thoroughly and try to understand and follow it. Then your life will become perfect. So with this, I conclude. It is a small introduction that I have presented today, and coming days, we can have a glimpses of this small book translation by Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. If you have any reflections, you are welcome.